out on traffic stops and are changing the world by yelling, "What's your badge number?" They're not going to fix anything by doing that.
Hmm.
Well, didn't Chris and Tiff break up with the 180 community?
But GS, trying to going back to your video that you was just at, and you asked, why is that lady a manager? Of course, I don't even know where they're at. I just caught a little bit of that video. But here's just a question. Who knows more about that job wherever they're at? The lady sitting behind the desk or the guy behind the camera that has never probably been inside that office, has no formal education, who considers himself an auditor, that has no degree outside probably watching a few YouTube videos and trying to get monetized? Who knows?
Okay.
That's a great question, JJ. And GS has an answer.
Well, here's the interesting thing. 9 times out of 10, you'd be 100% correct, but you're about to eat a little crow here. Are you ready? Here we
Fire
go.
away.
There it goes. Are you ready? Oh, by the way, Dove mentioned something about Ben Gay. Everybody's picking on you now.
Yeah, I
It's all rough,
appreciate
it's all
that.
rough fault.
Damn Chris Ruff.
You go to hell.
I'm not casting stones. I screw up multiple things a day, so.
Hi, somebody was asking for me.
Oh, I just wanted to see where you were at and just kind of have you chill.
So he's like, hi, somebody's asking for me, and she's like, yeah, I just wanted you to, in case we got to chuck them on a trail car or a train car, send them off to a re-education camp, because here we go. Ready?
Are you the PRO?
No.
Oh,
That's green.
Public relations officer.
Okay.
This isn't my computer either, so now this is be even more fun.
Okay. So you don't need me for anything specifically right this second?
Thank you.
This. Sorry, pardon me. Looks like a nice camera you got there.
it gets it done. Overheats a little too much in the heat, though, so.
Well, I will say this, Targeted Patton. If anyone starts to send messages over from your stream back onto my stream that are breaking TOS and you don't take care of it, and I will hold you responsible for that.
How do I see my chat?
Anything that has a chain in the regular chat, you'd have to bring up the YouTube video and have it to the side.
I'll check it, because I don't have very many followers, so I don't expect that to happen.
No, you'll get people that hate my guts to go over there and say nasty stuff about me, which is fine. I mean, I said F Todd. It wasn't horrible. Well, actually, no, it was the they misspelt my name to protect my sensibilities, I guess, but they didn't misspell the other word. But anyway, it is what it is. I'm gonna clutch my pearls over here.
I usually ignore the
camera.
Yeah,
Sorry,
but there's some words. There are
sense
some words that will mess. There are some words that will mess with my TOS.
Okay.
And being that you're restreaming, I think I can end it.
I understand. If you want to, you can. But I'll check and I'll moderate it if I see anything.
Sure, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm eyeing those like 5,200, so
Dang.
Yeah.
I'm like waiting on that one. Feel like I'm doing my Christmas save up like a kid.
Yeah.
So the index that you are looking for is just the one of who has made any other public records requests? I just want to make sure I'm getting.
Oh, no. Let me clarify. Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So in the Public Records Act, when you go to Section 70, there's an index that's referenced, and that index just basically, ironically, makes it easier for the public records officer.
Mm-hmm.
It lists all the documents that you guys have. So if you guys have a colloquial reference to a document that maybe I would say is X, but you call Y, we sort of know at the same time what we're talking about. Because I could look and be like, oh, I see what that is,
Yep.
but they.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Chris Ryder thought you were like kind of approaching your 80s, didn't he? They're Rats to the Moon.
And of course, just to inject something here. Of course, like I said, I don't even know who we're watching. Who's actually the auditor here?
That's
Yes.
Inland Auditing Media, otherwise known as Steve Gandalf. You got to make me do it again, but it has been 10 minutes, so I don't have to play him again. This is one of the few auditors that I actually have an insane amount of respect for.
I was just going to say, he's actually one of the good ones that I'm actually subscribed to. That's who I thought it was. But one question I have here is purpose. What is his purpose?
Mm-hmm. Well, his purpose is to get there's a thing called a public records index. This is something that is supposed to, well, he's kind of explaining it to you. But this is something that is supposed to be being maintained, but due to a lack of, competency, a lack of attention to detail. And the index is kept so that way, like, for instance, what I think a record would be called might be different than what they might call it. So it gives this index so that he can more quickly reference and expedite the record request and narrow the field of search to make it easier on the record keepers. But they're supposed to maintain like about a 15-page record index, which is kind of like an index, like a book index,
like alphabetizing.
Right. Or it's like,
but more specific.
Yeah. It's like an index of like, all right, well, what chapter would I go in the book to find this on, depending on what the book is. So it's an index. I'm sure you know what an index is. But a lot of these, he's finding that a lot of these public entities, these tax receiving entities, aren't maintaining this. And some of them are going 10, 15 years without maintaining them. And that's huge penalties. I mean, huge lawsuit penalties that get accrued. And he's trying to give them an opportunity to rectify that and to bring it to their attention that they have a blind spot. He's actually going out of his way to not try to cost the taxpayers any money.
We need him.
Yeah, he's one of the good guys, but here we go.
We call it Y, so I'll request Y. That way,
I'm sorry. Did you have a follow-on question, JJ, or no?
No, I just didn't catch the first little bit of the video, so I was kind of just trying to get caught up to see what exactly he was doing. So
yeah, he's had this. He's kind of latched onto the record indexes because he's noticing that almost every place that he's going, they have massive laps in it, or they're trying to print it up while he was there. I mean, it's just crazy. It's like they're not doing their jobs. It's like if you would have asked me 25, 30 years ago to describe America with one word, I would have said excellence. In the last 25 years to present, I'd say incompetence. We've become an incompetent nation. And that's not by accident. That's by design.
Also, JJ,
go ahead.
A lot of townships don't even have the tax records on hand that they're supposed to have at your request, or the year-to-date budget. Most of them their budgets aren't even done, and then we're almost at the end of 2024.
That reminds me of something. I have a question for JJ, if you don't mind.
Now, of course, you say the budgets aren't done by the end of the year, of course, and I'm only speaking just for, I don't get involved in obviously your other states or other counties' budgets, but I mean that seems to be a huge deal, especially in our county. I mean, you're actually given a deadline to where if that budget isn't done, I mean, I just in a nutshell, it's your ass. I mean, if it's not done, I mean, it has to be done, and if not, you'll have the AG's office crawling all down your neck for that. So that's crazy.
Yeah, to be honest, it's the same here, JJ. In my experience, like the budget is absolutely can't miss. You have to have it submitted and tabled, and read.
I've been in jail, and I have an issue actually. I was in there last year for a couple months. When I left in 2018, it's the Cambria County Prison, so it's a county jail in Pennsylvania, and I left there without owing them any money. I left with a zero balance. When I went back in 2023, they said I owed them $1,200, and I wrote a request to the accountant, and they just told me I'm burnt. I don't know what's going on. I didn't look any further into it. I have a hunch that I know what they did, but what would I do about that, JJ? Do you have any advice?
Of course, on the Pennsylvania law, I don't want to give you any advice. I can tell you that Kentucky, the jail can actually charge up to $50 a day for each person staying there. Of course, our county has adopted a $20 a day fee for staying there.
It's $10 a day in this prison, but
now hold on. Are you saying prison or jail? You said both words.
What's the Cambria County Prison?
Now, if it's a prison, you should have been a state inmate, and the state is liable for your incarceration fees unless she was on some sort of work program or some sort of home incarceration, something where you acknowledge and accepted the fees. The state would be responsible. Now, if you was in a county jail, of course, in Kentucky, that is, I'm not speaking for Pennsylvania. In Kentucky, you can be charged per day that you was in jail, per diem, for your jail fees along with your medical cost.
Right, and that's the thing. It's a county jail, but it's
Right.
called
And
the
so-
Cambria County Prison, and they house state inmates.
Yeah, every state is different. I know that Pennsylvania is a Commonwealth. I don't know about Kentucky. Is Kentucky a Commonwealth? Yeah. So especially with Commonwealth type states, they tend to have a lot of weird laws and facility, like those types of things do happen. I will tell you that with liens, right? That's a civil thing, right?
See, I don't know the
So-
money. That's the thing. Somebody messed up something and put the money on my account, and I wrote the accountant, and they just said, the computer said that this is what you owe, so that's it.
Yeah,
So who do I go
and
to
so
audit it?
I've been in a county as well where that's kind of been the case, where people get taxed for being there, right? And it ends up being something that's kept on their books after they leave, and then when they come back,
Right.
then it's on the books.
Well, see, I checked.
So I know
it.
exactly what you're talking about.
I got it confirmed that I don't know any. I didn't know anything, that it was a mistake.
Okay,
Who do I
okay.
go to fix it if the accountant doesn't want to do anything? Who do I go to then to look into it and fix it? Because I understand what they charge you and why they charge you and what I should owe and everything. I was going to work release at the time, so you have to pay any balance that you owe while you're going
This-
to work release in order to
This
be approved.
this
for
is
it.
this is what I would say, and this is in no way legal advice. Okay.
Wow.
I have been sent bill for this is me personally. I have been sent a bill from a jail where I called them and recorded the very conversation to ensure that it is not something that I owe. And thus, once you have that, I'm not giving you legal advice
Right.
here.
Well, I don't. When I was
Once
there,
they say you don't owe it on record,
Right. Well, they were taking half my money when I was there for commissary, and I should have owed $0 when I went in. So that's how I even discovered it. I wouldn't have even known. I think that it got put on there and hoping that I didn't even know.
right? And then somebody
did
sends
something
you
they're
some
supposed to
money
do.
and they snatch it out, and then oopsie.
Yeah, somebody did
Yeah.
something they're not supposed to do. So I'm
Okay.
wondering how I handle that. It's
Yeah,
a
we
sensitive issue.
I would consult a lawyer or an attorney. I don't.
I got you.
feel
I was
comfortable
just I
engaging.
didn't know if that was it.
And always record everything.
And
Yeah, I know.
I just give you some free advice. What I would do is if you felt that way and you don't have the money to retain an attorney, I would actually just sit down and write a brief description and send it to your attorney general in your state and let him contact the jail. We actually have these kind of disputes from time to time, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a, we don't get mad over it.
I'd like
we
to
don't,
do it without getting anybody in
we don't take
trouble.
offense. So yeah, just contact your attorney general.
Okay, because I'd like to do it without getting anybody in trouble. That's why I was kind of asking.
You're not going to get in any trouble. Believe you me, that people do click the wrong button sometimes. They might mark you for a county inmate. You're supposed to be a state inmate, and you run up a bill for $100 that you don't know. It is what it is. I mean,
I
it
got
does
you. I
happen.
got you. They call that
Yeah,
fat
so-
finger, right?
Yeah, contact your AG. All right, we're gonna get back to the video real quick because I just want to demonstrate how it goes from pleasant to from zero to bitch real quick.
With the whole, what are you mean? Because that sometimes I'll ask for clarifications.
Right. So that's actually, I am gonna ask for clarification because we do have, we're a public entity, so everything we have is a public record.
No, I get that. The index is meant to help people when they're making requests to actually more efficaciously discern what records are available.
Okay, so I'm gonna have you actually write that down.
My hand is a
don't
little
wanna-
sore today from some work that I was doing.
So then we're gonna actually ask you to go online and do it because a verbal one right now, because I'm not the public records officer.
Yeah, so I just want to point out that Rat sent a message. So here's the issue, right? There's so much of this stuff is like, well, you can access that online. You can make your your request online. You could do this online. Well, what the fuck do I need you for? Pardon my French. What are we paying you for, you muppet? Why exactly are you on the government payroll if everything's being automated online? And then what happens when the electricity goes off? No one's going to have the competency to do the job. This whole online stuff is a big excuse. Well, that's convenient for you. There's 3 different ways I can request it: orally, right? There should be a hard copy, or I can access it online. In most of the states, that is the procedure. But these people, it's all about the convenience of them versus them doing their job as government. It sounds like somebody wants to say something. Go ahead.
Can I just quickly chime in with something? So the biggest red flag that I'm seeing here is not necessarily her kind of deflecting and sending this guy to go online. There's a statute involved, and the director herself is unaware of the terms and conditions that are stated in the very statute that an employee of hers is governed by. Like, that's, to me, that's huge non-compliance. If she's unaware of provisions that are being listed in terms of, obtaining this appendix, then how are you not able to hold this person accountable? How are you not able to just bring this director forward? But I guarantee you she'll get off by saying, well, that's not my job description. I oversee that department, but the person that normally is the custodian of the records or processes these requests wasn't available here. And again, she's looking to just essentially get rid of this guy having this request, but he's persistent and he's being cordial. So they can't just say, well, refuse service because the person was verbally abusive or whatnot. So on these circumstances, it is quite interesting to see, just again, the level of unprofessionalism, because this very director has no one to trickle the blame down to.
Roger,
I do agree with you, Killa. But I think at her at this point, if she don't know, there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't have the answer to your question. Hang on a minute. Go look it up if you have to. Go pull out the book. Go pull out the book. Go pull up Google. Go pull up your statute. Each state has. Kentucky has what we call the Green Book. The Green Book has all the statutes in it. I mean, it's 1,500 pages. Nobody could possibly know every single word, period, and or I, it, period, whatever have you. Sometimes you have to just tell people, I don't have the answer to your question. I'm gonna have to go look. I don't know.
Absolutely. And even to just, and not to steal your thunder, GS, but just to foreshadow kind of what you're saying, is a lot of what's happening now is you have these kind of academics that come in. So like JJ is not exactly your prototypical, public servant, where it's like more dealing with the blue collar work ethic and being accountable and whatnot. A lot of these academics, it's mental chess. So she doesn't want to come off as not knowing something. Because the way JJ, had a solution for that problem is exactly logical. No one would be expected to know every single provision, but the fact that she's not willing to just say, "Hey, you know what? I want to just double check on this." She shows she's listening to, the member of the public. She's intently trying to service his requests. But again, it's going to be the pride that kicks in, and that's what's kind of chasing out the blue collar workers that take up positions in the government. And you're finding it's more just filled with people from academia that kind of look to just play mental chess every single day and look to who can outsmart the other person, who could throw another person under the bus for lack of compliance and whatnot. And that's the side of the government that needs to change. But again, who do you hold accountable?
Actually, I think you mispronounced Marxist. You said intelligentsia or academics. I think you meant Marxists. Yeah.
And back to you there, Killa. And I think this applies.
I think that was J. I just call him GM that was talking.
Oh, okay, GM. And I think this applies to about everything in life. I mean, if you don't have the answer for something, there is nothing wrong with telling somebody that you don't know. There's nothing that's not going to label you as stupid or don't know in your job. I mean, Killa, you said you was a plumber. If I asked you a plumbing question and you don't know, you're going to have to find out. I was a mechanic by trade. there's no way that I can know everything about every vehicle, every car, every engine out there. Somebody asked me what the firing order on a small block Chevrolet was, and I didn't know. I'm gonna have to refer back. I may not know what it was. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Just telling people, I don't know. And you got me. There's no shame in that.
That's 100% JJ. But the problem with our regular civilians is when you go to the courts and there's so many laws on the book and you go to the judge, go, I don't know that. The judge will berate you that as an American, you should have known the laws and it's your civic duty to uphold them. But yet then we have the cops that violate people's rights and they go, oh, I didn't know, judge. I need qualified immunity, and it's granted. So it has to be the same for both sides. One side can't have the upper hand the entire time.
Right.
That's an interesting point. Sorry, Brick. Just one second. That's an interesting point because we're told ignorance is no excuse for breaking the law. And what he's bringing to her attention is the fact that she does not have this index printed out and readily available as it is supposed to be in hard copy form. That is actually against the laws on the state statutes of this particular state. So if ignorance is no excuse for breaking the law when it comes to a civilian, then it should be doubly no excuse for them to be breaking the law when they're the ones that are supposed to be upholding, making, enforcing, and judging whether or not you're in contempt of the law in some way, shape, or form. Go ahead, Brick. You had something to say, and I think JJ wanted to respond.
Oh, yeah, no, I'll pass it on to JJ because you covered it exactly. It's called mens rea.
Right. Okay, JJ, do you have a response to that?
No, I didn't have any response. And actually, I mean, I think as a panel, as a chat, I mean, I feel like we're kind of on the same page, and we're on a real good topic here.
I agree.
A lot of it goes back to, I think some people have, and I've seen this. I mean, I've seen this firsthand, not only in government, but I've seen this everywhere, that sometimes if you question somebody who is on the other side of the counter or who might consider themselves up on a pedestal or above you, that if you try to inform them of something or maybe even give them your opinion or your idea, they get hostile. I mean, that's just not the government. I mean, that's a lot of places. I mean, but I do get it. And the whole ignorance is no exception to the law. I've heard that actually said before. Do I agree with it? No. That's actually something that we as a jail, we actually train against that. And because we have people that come into jail every day who ask, sometimes it's repetitive questions. They ask, what's his bond? How much is his bond? What's the difference between a surety bond and a property bond and a cash bond and an ROR bond? How do you use the kiosk out front? Which one's for phone? Which one's for commissary? When do they get out? When do they get visitation? What about this? What about that? Sometimes those questions get real repetitive whenever you ask them 25 times a day. And sometimes I've actually had to calm my people down and tell them, these people don't know. These people have no idea what they're doing. This is the first time they've ever been inside of a jail. This is the first time they've ever known anybody locked up in jail, and you're going to take your time. They have no idea what's going on. So be patient, because I try to reflect back to the first time I've ever walked in a jail before. I didn't know how anything worked in there. The same way as if I crawled underneath of a house and tried to do plumbing work. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Or if I opened up a panel box on a house and tried to rewire it, I don't know what I'm doing. So if I asked a question, don't treat me like I'm stupid.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's go ahead. Go ahead.
You are right, JJ. It is happening everywhere. The difference is the government is the only place that can take your freedom. They can actually punish you monetary by taking money from you. They're the only ones that can do anything against you because you aggravated them. You know, if you pissed off somebody in Walmart, you might get trespassed for Walmart for whatever amount of time. But other than that, it doesn't really affect you. But with the government, they can come after your money, they can come after your property and your freedom. So it's a lot higher stakes when the government's coming after you.
And
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that that's something that I'm not quite sure how to say this, that the level of awareness should be a whole lot higher to anybody who has the ability or the authority to take somebody's freedom away.
Yeah.
You need to think long and hard before you do that. It's almost like as a boss firing somebody. You might get mad at somebody. You might have a screaming match at somebody. But before you go and you take somebody's livelihood or their freedom away or other things of such importance, you better have a damn good reason to, and you better think about it, and you better think about the long-term effects, the short-term effects, and what it's doing to that person.
Well, I mean, in essence, it's even more than just freedom. It's a threat on your very life because just take taxes, for example, or a warrant. Or, I mean, if guys with guns come to your house and say, you need to come with us, and you're like, I don't feel like not being free today. Well, that could cost you your whole life for even something as small as a moving violation warrant, or, I mean, at the end of the day, it's to their point, the government has a very big stick associated with it. And usually death is on the other side of it, not paying taxes, for example. You could die in jail, not only lose your freedom, but lose any potentiality to have a life worth living, pursuit of happiness, right? But again, doing something that's dumbass doesn't guarantee that you'll be happy. If you do dumbass stuff, you're not guaranteed happiness, you're not guaranteed life, and you're not guaranteed freedom, i.e. liberty. But the pursuit of said things. But here we go. I really want to finish watching at least this a little bit of it, so that way we can kind of see the resolution. We can kind of see where the ego and hubris switch gets flipped for those that haven't seen it yet.
I don't.
So I can't make it to another public employee?
No.
Gotcha.
It has to come through the records.
Out of curiosity, so and it may have changed. I mean, sometimes I'm behind the times on things. Did Bob update the administrative code regarding making verbal requests?
I don't know who Bob is.
Ferguson.
You
The
have to ask
Attorney General.
Bob.
Yeah, I mean, I checked yesterday, and the administrative code said in section 03006 that you can make those requests verbally. So I was just going to do that, especially since my hand's a little sore today.
So I would recommend that you.
He's low-key trolling her, saying his hand's sore, so he doesn't feel like filling out a piece of paper, which some people might think he's being kind of an asshole, but he can give it orally. She would be required, or he, depending on who's behind the desk, would be required to annotate it. He's only required to orally give it, and then if they fail to look into it or contact him eventually in a certain amount of time, there's huge penalties. I believe it's $1,000 per day per page, and they don't give a rat's ass because it's not attributed to their frickin' wallet. It comes out of the taxpayers. That's where there needs to be some changes in the law, where if they are doing some dereliction of duty nonsense, and it can be proven that it's egregious, that should get attached to them for the rest of their damn lives, instead of coming always out of the pocket of the taxpayer for their mistakes. Because there's a level of hubris and arrogance that kind of goes along with that. So here we go.
You give us your email address and your contact info. You can request those verbally. We will get back to you.
Okay. Yeah. What I can do is I've got your
So
card.
again, if you want to leave your contact information, we will get back to you. You can email me.
Yeah.
And our public records officer, when she is here, will get back to you.
Sure. Well, what I'll do is just so I can finish, I'll just finish making the public records request verbally, and then you guys can, handle that however
Well,
you
I'd
want
like
to.
for you to at least write your contact information down then.
Yeah, I get that. Like I said, just
So
my hands a little sore.
So that's all right. So if you make it, we don't have your contact information, I can't get it back to you anyways.
Yeah, and I'll
I'm not sure.
tell you verbally what
kind
my email address is as well.
I mean, you don't have to be a body language expert to see what she's doing here, do you, JJ?
No. And I mean, you can clearly tell that she don't have the answers to his questions, and she is. Yeah. And she has some serious deflection going on here. That is for sure. I'm actually glad to see her at the point now saying, wait a minute.
Well, here's
somebody else involved.
Yeah, so here's the issue. It's not the question that she doesn't have the answer. She's refusing to engage in a listening process of him saying that this is how the law operates. This is what you're supposed to do by the law. And she keeps telling him to do her job. And he's like, that's what I pay you for. I mean,
Well,
you know.
And now I can't lie, GS, I actually got up and made a bowl of ice cream, so I missed that part of the video.
Dude, Ice Cream Brothers right here, baby. I had some.
You old guys and ice cream.
Well, GS actually, I saw his ice cream earlier, and I thought, damn, that sounds good, and I went and raided the refrigerator.
Dereliction of duty.
Yeah, here we go.
So I'm dyslexic, so I
Gotcha.
don't know that actually having you tell.
So how did you become a director if you're dyslexic? How did you rise? How did you overcome
There's
that
DEI.
hurdle? Yeah, how did
Now-
you overcome that hurdle,
I
sister?
can't believe she just said that. I can't believe
Here comes the victim.
You know she's BSing.
Yeah, I mean it's like one of the other ones I watched where the lady said, I'm new here and you don't know what my triggers and whatever are. And having you being you don't know the things I've been through in my past that trigger me. So you have to wait outside and I'll take your request outside because I don't know if you can be in here recording. So the other woman was like, you need to go outside because I'm triggered by your presence. This is what the woke Kamala Harris,
Absolutely.
absolute Muppet voters would like to do to this country. And I would say, do I think that this woman right here,
Tell me these.
do I think that she's qualified for her job? I don't freaking think she's competent whatsoever. Do I think, as Brick pointed out, DEI didn't earn it, right? She didn't earn it. She was appointed. Why was she appointed? Because she's not competent. Why do we want not competent people running government? So that they can be taken advantage of. Why do we want to take advantage of people that are in government? So that the puppet masters can more efficiently do what they want to do without interference. They get a bunch of little, bootlickers, right? You want to call them that?
Claiming ignorance.
Yeah.
Right.
She's like, I'm gonna mess this up. So if I fail, it's my dyslexia. And if you have a problem with that, then you're a bigot.
These things is actually a really great idea.
Fair enough. Are you a public employee?
No, she's a fill-in for right now. Thank you
Gotcha.
very much.
Okay. Is there maybe the guy that came out earlier? I could get assistance from him.
I'm
See, she's not listening. He's saying any public employee should be or must be able to take my request, even if it's a janitor. For all those people that gave me crap about auditing the janitor, which I did not do, by the way, even I could give that janitor a public records request. And if she's working in a public capacity with public tax dollars, guess what that janitor would have to do? She'd have to smile and take my order. Otherwise, she would risk getting a complaint, perhaps losing her job. So no, I didn't give her a bunch of shit like these idiots said I did. I'm a little triggered by that. I thought I was very nice to the lady.
kind of curious, like, what are you going after at this point?
Public records.
Okay, so if you would like public records, you can actually give me your email address.
Yeah,
And
like
I
I said,
can
it's just
then email you
inconvenient for
back.
me at the moment, just because my hand's a little sore. To just do it this way, and I mean,
All right,
since
Come on, Gandalf. You know that and by the way, I actually owe Rats to the Moon a Gandalf, but we know the reason why your hand's sore from opening that scotch bottle and pouring yourself a nice little, he loves his scotch too, by the way.
Now you could tell she's a horrible boss. She's so used to telling people what to do that she won't take any criticism or listen to anybody else for any other suggestions.
I agree. And I got to do this for Rats. Okay, let's go. Let's get this video done. I talk too much. I keep interrupting because I want to sit back and I want to get the panel all nice and big, and I want you guys to talk about what we've seen.
And give me your
gonna
email
speed it
address.
up.
sure, yeah, you bet.
This is, I know, trust me, we've already all talked about you folks.
You folks.
Already all talked about you folks doing these things. So give
Doing
me your
records
email
requests?
address. Well, coming in with videos and doing this. So
Well, I'm working on a story about these
go ahead and give me-
people in the
Please
index.
just give me your email address.
It's anonymous.
About these people in the index.
But now hang on now. This goes back to what I said earlier, GS. A year ago, I might have said something like that because the only experience I ever had with somebody who associated themselves with the 1A community.
Mm-hmm.
And we all saw how that person
I
was, and
agree
who
with
they
that.
was, and what their person was. So that person who was a false actor in the 1A community.
A bulldog
So, I mean,
with fleas.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think everybody knows where I'm going with that.
Right. No, I hear what you're saying, but that almost makes me think that we should have more auditors, not less. Because you've obviously gotten some level of an education, and I stand by the fact that you can learn just as much from a good leader as you can from a bad leader. From a bad leader, you can learn how not to lead. From a bad auditor, you can learn how not to audit. From a good auditor, you can learn how to audit. Right now, if your motivation, yes, and if your motivation is clicks and views and grifting off your audience, well, there's a person called For Public Safety, otherwise known as Grifter for Robbins, Chris Ryder, that you can go model yourself after. But as you can see, it's not ending well for this Muppet. But here we go.
Citizen. WA.
Okay.
At Proton Mail, just like the subatomic particle.com. I don't
Right, so I recommend that you actually go online, because it does look like you have the ability to
goes
go
again,
online
deflecting.
and request this through our public records.
She once again, because I'm a lazy piece of shit that just wants to collect a welfare check from the government, I recommend you go online to make my job easier. How about fuck you, not no, but hell fuck no. See, here's where the soap comes out, right? Here's where the need for soap comes out. Here's where a guy is bending over backwards to be polite to this sandwich maker. I'm sorry, this cat owner, this cat lady who's going to die single and lonely unless she gets a bunch of cats to keep her company. It has been nothing but kind to this lady, and she keeps
drinking coffee, bro. Come on now.
What you say? No, but he keeps trying to be kind to her, and this bitch keeps trying to ice skate uphill.
She is definitely a Big Mac, a large fry, and a Diet Coke.
Hey, whoa. Whoa.
What is that your order, GS?
Not a Diet Coke, but the number two for breakfast and lunch is my favorite. It is known.
Back to you. I've got your email address. I'll follow up with you. But for now, I don't know that there's much more I
Be quiet, JJ.
can do with helping you,
Choke on your ice cream.
because our public records officer is not here.
Sure. But you are a public employee, so I'd just like to complete the records request verbally if I could. I mean, really, that's...
She's not listening.
So I'd like to get the names of all currently employed staff at this facility, dates of hire, titles, positions.
Do you think she's writing this down? I can't tell if she's writing it down or not. Maybe.
Respective dates for those, like if people were promoted from one position to the next and perhaps attained a different title.
Like director.
Rate of pay. Email addresses.
Email addresses are all online.
So then, Brick. Somebody in the chat's been praying for me, guys, because I was about to just cuss right there.
Work phone numbers, work schedules. And official employee photos.
Oh, I don't think we have.
Well, I mean, they may have a different colloquial reference. Sometimes HR calls them different things.
We don't have employee. We don't do employee photos.
Gotcha. Okay. Also, I'm really confused as to what you're talking about when you were saying people coming with cameras. I mean, I'm working on a story about the index, and as I can see here, there is no index, at least seemingly so.
Well, there's more than likely an index.
So we're gonna. He said to skip to the 13 to avoid an analysis, but I think it's important for people to see the analysis real quick.
You can see here, Executive Director Dana Coggin isn't a very nice public servant. She's rude, contemptuous, presumptuous, officious, and I don't believe enjoys working for the public, but rather enjoys lording her authority over the people. Well, let's look at what the emails have to say about that public records index that she said is likely available, shall we? Let's see if Executive Director Coggin is being truthful or not. Well, let's start with an email from September 30th from Gracie DeMio, who's the Public Records Officer for the Pierce County Conservation District, in which she writes, "Thank you for your request. With regard to a public records index, we do not maintain an index per our records policy," and goes on to cite, "The district finds that maintaining an index for use by the public would be unduly burdensome and would interfere with the district operations, given the small size of the district and the high volume of types of public records generated and received by the district. We do not have any redacted or withheld."
Okay, so I think the lady's misunderstanding what a public records index actually is. It shouldn't be much more than 15 pages. I think in her mind, she's thinking, or whoever the records person is, that they have to print out all the volumes of it, and it would be wasteful, waste, fraud, and abuse. But actually, it's a very they don't understand what a records in, right? I see you nodding, Brick.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, and he's explained it profusely what it is, right? And so it's interesting too that it's been noted that it's the small size of the district that is the reason why they can't keep it. Well, the smaller the district, wouldn't it be more reasonable to have such, like, easier, you know? So it seems a untenable reason for sure.
Any information in these records. So I want to be clear here. What she's done is she has cited an exemption from the state law, from RCW 425670 subsection 4A, where they can exempt themselves if it would be unduly burdensome. Interesting here, but yikes, far, and I mean galaxies away from the truth. So it looks like things are not turning out well for Executive Director Dana Coggin so far. On October 15th, I responded back to Gracie DeMio, Public Records Officer for the Conservation District, and I wrote, "Hi, Gracie. Thank you for the response. Please consider this as a new public records request for all responsive records. That evidence that maintaining a records index would be a local agency does not need to maintain such an index if to do so would be unduly burdensome, but that it shall, in that event, issue and publish a formal order specifying the reasons why and the extent to which compliance would be unduly burdensome or interfere with agency operations. I require the evidence that corroborates the reasons why and the extent to which compliance would unduly burden or interfere with agency operations." And this is where it gets ugly. On October 18th, just 3 days later, Gracie DeMio responds by saying, "Dear Steve, I've sent this as a separate email to keep things tidy in our records. This correspondence is to acknowledge your public records request dated October 16th. Your request has been assigned the above file number." And she goes on to say, "We have searched our records utilizing the information contained within your request, including both our digital and paper file records. Unfortunately, we have been unable to locate any records responsive to your request. Our public index policy was adopted through a resolution in 2011. That's a typo, it's 2014. That was part of a personnel manual policy resolution. As such, we do not have any resolutions separate from that one that clearly outline the reasoning. We thank you for bringing this to our attention and realize the need for this resolution under the state statutes, RCWs, after receiving your original request. This resolution is currently set to be adopted at our next board meeting on November 13th, 2024. Yikes. So what this means is they initially stated, "Oh yeah, we've got an exemption." But when called out and asked for the evidence, they had to admit they did not have it. Now, this is not on Gracie DeMio as the public records officer. I came to find out in my follow-up, which will be in here as well. She's a very nice new public records officer. This is, however, on Executive Director Dana Coggin. And I believe, based on the responses I got, this was an attempt to shuffle me along and make it appear as if they had a public record.
Well, what do you know? Okay, I think we got the picture here, guys, right? Well, what do you know? It looks like good old GJM was 100% right. Oh, look, it's a new employee that they could just sacrifice, or being that
I love this video.
being that Steve actually has enough integrity to know not to try to want to get a scalp from this poor clerk whose job it isn't to have been trained to do these things. It was the director who should be held responsible, and I feel as though very strongly he plans to do it. Go check him out. I don't know if mods, if you're not busy, if you can link I Am Free Inland Auditing Media's channel, I'd appreciate that. And thank you. Hopefully, Steve, you're doing well. And
now, may I ask a question, GS?
Yeah, the floor's open. Let's have fun.
So, with that proof right there, that the policymakers in 2014 and the new hire that was there in charge of public records, how can we ever fault the entry-level employees when the director herself isn't even up to date with what the statute is? They're passing policy that is completely out of context and does not align with what the statute is being published to the general public. I mean, it just proves my point that, I mean, it's who's running that place. And then when people go and they give a hard time to these people working in these positions, they're there without a prayer. They're there pretty much just, I mean, how can they know something that not even the director is going to tell them? That's not in their job description. No one's going to update them on any of that stuff.
Yeah, it's actually not a bad point. Something that I had a 13-year break in military service. I was in 89, got out in 92, and then 13-year break up back in 05. And
Quitter.
What's that? Quitter. So the interesting thing is that, to your point, I got to see two different kinds of militaries. I got to see a military that competence was the watchword of a non-commissioned officer, and then fast forward to an army that was willing to accept my old ass back in. And you talk about lowering standards. There ain't no way in hell I should have been allowed back in at my age. But I was. And the weird thing is that when I rose to the rank of having soldiers underneath me, and we're going to the motor pool, and I got some new privates that are fresh from basic training. And all right, we're going to the motor pool. We're going to do a PMCS. All right, you're going to do a PMCS on this Humvee. Blah 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 blah. Roger, Roger, Roger. Sergeant, sit at parade rest, Sergeant. We don't know how to do a PMCS. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? You didn't learn the basics? They were like, no, they didn't teach us that kind of stuff in basic. They just basically gave us an airsoft rifle and told us get ready for war. I mean, drill and ceremony perished basically. PMCSs, So to your point, it always ends with leadership. It always begins with leadership, but that doesn't mean that certain soldiers can't be shitbags, right? And those are the ones that should be either retrained or gotten rid of. But where's the emphasis on holding leadership accountable? Go ahead. GM? Go ahead.
Very true. And then the other example, too, of where she mentions she's dyslexic and whatnot, that's unfortunately the crux that goes on in the public service now. It's what pronouns, this offends me, where it's a safe space. I mean, I guarantee you this director, she easily could have advocated for herself afterwards to be given paid time off due to stress because she was bombarded with these intrusive questions. She could maybe be given a new ergonomic chair and all these other things. Like this is the abuse that's going on in the public sector. And my other point is, do you think someone like that director would be someone that would support her staff, or if Steve had encountered the person that was, the clerk, for example, and she didn't know, do you think that director wouldn't have just thrown her under the bus? Absolutely, she would have.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Go ahead, Brick. You said you look like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, so I kind of look at things from, of course, probably as you know by now, from a natural perspective. I always try to take it back when I look at the government to the family, right? So I blame the parents, right? That's the higher ups. But that doesn't mean that the children aren't at fault, right? And when it comes to good record keeping and that sort of thing, the person is hired on for a job, right? It's up to them to do the research as to what their job description is. If the director hasn't given you a full description of what the job description is, I believe it would be wise. It's not always going to be the case that the director or whoever that you've been hired on, for instance, is going to tell you. How about perhaps like a lawn maintenance tech, right? There might be times when you need to change the blade, right? Mm-hmm. Now, it's a little bit of common sense that you don't just reach under there while the machine's running, right? You turn the machine off, right? You let it sit there a minute, let the blade stop spinning, right? It's just some common sense stuff, right? So if you're hired on to do a job like record keeping, right? It's just, to me, it's common sense to go look up the statutes, especially if you're in a governmental position, and get familiar with these things. So when I hear, should we blame the person whose job it is to do the job and they didn't do the job entirely? Well, yes, absolutely. I also blame the higher ups. I also blame the parent figure, the boss man, because the boss man wasn't ensuring that the employee was doing the job correctly. So yeah, and that's my response to that.
Anyone else?
I think this. Go ahead.
In all reality, I think that all of government needs their own set of laws, just like we had in the military. GS, when we got in trouble in the military, we didn't have to deal with civilian laws. We had the UCMJ, which was way stricter than any civilian laws out there. We were held to such a higher standard. If we act like a bag in public, then we got beat down pretty bad, whether restriction or a 30-30 or whatnot. So I believe that government and police, they should all have their own set of standards that are higher than what the civilians have to do. And they should be held accordingly. Instead, we have a wall of protection against all of them so they can willingly screw up their job without any repercussions, any payments. Look at, you see these cops do brutal things on videos. Oh my God, they got a 3-day paid vacation while we investigate them. Like, no, but if we did that as a civilian, we'd be in jail with a bond, not ROR'd.
That's where the problem lies, I think, is right there with the accountability. If they modeled, how the military operates, their accountability, I think we'd see a lot of problems get solved.
Well, I mean, you definitely get some people chaptered out. I mean, you'd still have nepotism and favoritism and good old boy kind of stuff going on, I imagine. It's not what you know, it's who you blow or who you know, that kind of a scenario, right? But so we're all identifying what we perceive to be problems, and I'm hearing like arguably a couple of decent solutions. But what does that solution look like? What is implementing a UCMJ type I don't know, reckoning, as it were, to these governmental positions? Well, what does that do? I mean, what is it? All right, so let's talk about it. What is it? You mentioned 30 and 30, or reduction in rank. 30 days extra duty, 30 days confined to post. So you got extra duty. So you're not off when everyone else is off. You just start your extra duty till about 11 p.m. at night. And then you have, you lose 30 days of privileges and perhaps even a reduction in rank. That hits you in your pocketbook.
In the wallet. That's right.
Yeah, it hits you right in your wallet, and that'll get you. And it goes on your record, and it's really hard to get that kind of stuff dealt with, right? So to your point, we bubble wrap these pricks way too much. Where's the comeuppance of the Here's my issue: when the settlements come out of taxpayers' pockets, and the infraction is done by taxpayer recipients, that's robbing Peter to pay Paul and cutting someone and then throwing salt and lemon juice in the wound, in my opinion. Why is that a thing? So, okay, so what are the solutions? And how do we get a UCMJ style accountability in governance to include unelected officials, bureaucrats, which I think is the most important thing? Go ahead, Targeted. You wanted to say something, I think?
Well, I agree with you. What do we do? I think the camera is doing it. I mean, I'm seeing change.
I don't know, man. I'm seeing auditors getting chucked into jail for almost no reason at all in some cases.
Well, that's where the corruption is the worst, though. So when you see that, so this is the point for me, right? And this is where the real activism comes into play, right? So where you see that and you know that they're doing nothing wrong, is it worth your time to make a call and be professional? Be professional. Is it worth your time to go and visit yourself and be professional?
Well, I don't know. Ask, dude. Who should you ask? Ask Hendry. Like, yeah. So I mean, and here's the other thing too. For all you know, that could have been the government setting up Hendry by having fake people with spoofed numbers calling and making fake threats. I mean, you don't even know. I mean, they could be setting up this inconvenient little swarmy prick who has a very high IQ, who seems to know the laws, and they don't really like this young upstart telling them how effed up they are and how things should be run in his country, that when he's paying the bills, he's the frickin' boss. And when you're the employee and you're loafing, you're not doing your job, get the fuck out of here. Oh, wait, you can't tell me that? Because, no, I am your boss. When your boss comes around and asks you what you're doing today for work, and you tell him, fuck off, it's none of your business, turn that camera off. Try that in the private sector. Try it in the private sector.
What we really need to do, the first thing we need to do is rip down this blue wall of silence. We need to make a safe space for good cops to come out against the bad ones so we can prosecute the bad officers instead of hiding them behind the scenes. Look at what's going on up in Massachusetts right now with the whole Karen Reed trial. All those same state troopers were involved in a death and a grooming of an underage girl. And
Careful.
Well, yeah, that's all I'm saying. But they've been going through brutality. And then even now, they're about to try Karen Reed for the second time, even though the feds proved that she didn't off her cop boyfriend. But they're still going after her because they need a man
They can't see
to justify everything.
They can't see the big picture. They can't see that they're only hurting their own image, and then they're just going to put it on us. Like we have to take the, make policy changes and make everything safer for them, officer safety, and like that's going to fix things. And they don't see the bigger picture. It's only going to make things worse.
Like JJ, before you started running that jail, how many COs do you think were doing heinous things, and other COs that were decent would cover them up because they were afraid of being retaliated against by the higher up for opening their mouth? Exactly.
You have no idea. And, I tell you what, let's just go down that road. I've seen control room logs changed, and I have evidence of the proof. I have the people who did it. I have everything, every single piece of evidence, unlike death investigations, and everybody turns a blind eye to it. Everybody, down to the insurance companies. Nobody wants to hear it. It's unheard of. So yes, I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. That's why I just don't stand for that kind of stuff. And that's the stuff that I choose to tackle head on. Those are the real issues that I try to get resolved, and that's the important issues. These little episodes like in these offices right here, that could have been handled in 5 minutes. That was real simple. There's no sense in small talk. There's no sense in any of the nonsense that went on. If you don't know the answer to the question, tell somebody you don't know the answer to the questions. If you have to, take down their phone number. There is no life.
Oh, pump your brakes. Fourth Amendment. Fourth Amendment.
Hold on. No, seriously. There is no life in jeopardy. If you don't know the answer to somebody's question, tell them. People like honesty. So just tell them, I don't know how to answer your question. I've never used an end. That's why I'm working here. I can take your open records request if you need to and get you whatever records you need. But I don't know about the indents, and I'm sorry, but I will find the information and I will take care of it. We'll address it however we need to. And just be honest with people. I mean, if you don't know the answer to the question, don't do a bunch of small talk and say you're dyslexic and I don't know and start talking about different oddball stupid stuff. Just tell somebody you don't know.
Yep.
And people, and they like that honesty part.
Isn't that
that's
the
exactly
line?
right.
They say honesty goes a long way. Like,
Well, the real saying is the stupidest person in the room is the person who thinks they know everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Socrates.
But you want to talk about corruption and shit that I've seen whenever I started. We could have several live streams. Mm-hmm.
I concur. I don't know if I actually shared, but I actually presently work in a youth detention center up in Canada here. And everything JJ's saying is spot on.
Yeah, and so for me, right, what I do like is the honesty, right? And so for particularly some of my content, I'm not that big, but I've done a little bit, right? The records part, that's like a side thing for me. I want to know if you know our rights. That's my question. Do you know the 5 elements? I know we did the audit already, JJ. But the 5 elements of the First Amendment is like gold for me. If you don't know it, that's okay too, because then we can have a conversation. Maybe some education might need to take place. But if you say, I don't want to have a conversation and you're not going to bait me into this thing, then I've already gauged that you don't want accountability, that you don't even want to know your own rights. if you know your own rights, then you know mine. And so that's like my main goal, to find out whether the government officials know our rights. And if you don't know, you don't know.
In a grade school level.
Can I just respond one thing quickly? So I know, the crooked officer thing and everything like that, but it swings both ways. I mean, last year, for example, I had some punk kid and some weak officer broke protocol, gave this maniac who's just assaulted like 1,000 officers there, gave him a pencil. I go there just doing my job. What do I get? He stabs me in the neck with a pencil. And this is after weeks of me having to put him in, solitary confinement, uttering threats, racial slurs, all that stuff. I had the documented paper trail. Like, man, this guy's going to sewer me. This guy literally is bragging to other inmates and other guards, like, yeah, man, I'm going to get rid of that guy. And lo and behold, even after getting stabbed in the neck and management reassuring me, well, guess what he did? He put in a complaint. And guess what that meant me? That sends me to Exile Island, where I can't communicate with any other employees or anything like that. And I was paid. It's not exactly a pleasure vacation wondering where my future, everything hangs in the balance. So people want to say, the officers, this and that. It swings both ways too. And you got a lot of crooked people that are purposely trying to set off these officers on a lot of these, 1A audit videos where they're intentionally trying to egg them on, intentionally trying to create conflict. Like it's a two-way street.
You're right. And that's why I say there's an easier way to do things. That video you just showed, GS, he handled it beautifully. Like, he just kept his composure and was polite the whole time.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in maintaining, not letting somebody disturb your peace. And it's not an easy thing to do. It really, really isn't. And, I would actually say that I'm glad that we pointed out. I'm glad that you guys pointed out that there's bad examples on both sides of this aisle, right? There are just some human beings, regardless of whether they're cops or felons, that are just absolute disgusting human beings. It's not the fact that they wear a uniform or that they, don't wear a uniform. It's the fact that they're disgusting human beings. It's a character flaw, right? And so the thing that irritates me the most is the groups of people that cops can do no wrong, period. And then there's the other group that say there are no good cops. All government must be abolished. You're an absolute idiot. Yeah. You don't, and trust me, as much as I like to posture that I'm a big Billy badass and I've got all this training, there are people in this world that would come take whatever I had and piss on me as I decompose in a field somewhere. And there are people that I would be able to do that too. It's just, but then it's a dog eat dog world, and then it's survival of the fittest. And I would say, thank God, be thankful that there are laws that keep a guy like me from perhaps going against someone that wants to abolish all laws and all rules and all boundaries. Be grateful that there are laws, because if I have a certain penchant to want to do what I want to do with you, and there ain't no other men that are going to all gather up together and stop me, and it's just me and you, it might not work out so well for you. And guess what? If there's a person out there that has the ability, and that if there was no one there, no group of men in uniforms that would come haul him off, if he came in and did whatever he wanted to my entire family, I'm grateful for those laws. Because there's always somebody bigger and badder than you on the block. What are your thoughts, gentlemen?
Savage.
Well, what Brick was saying, the cops not knowing the 5 elements of the First Amendment is a symptom of the problem. The main problem is our government allowing the Supreme Court to dictate how the Constitution is read. Let's face facts here. The Constitution was written when half these people didn't graduate 2nd grade. It's for every retard of the land to understand it, because it's black and white. It is absolute. So for them to go, my interpretation, and then twist it to a narrative to the right side or the left side is complete bullshit. It's just straight down the middle. It's written the way it's written, and that's the way we're supposed to take it. No other way.
They give cops First Amendment auditor training, and it boggles my mind when I hear that, because I'm like, why don't they just train them on the First Amendment? like they're supposed to be trained, and then we
Oh,
wouldn't
that's
have the
kinda
problem.
But
You know what I mean?
but hang on, no target. That training goes way beyond anything First Amendment related. It really don't really apply to the First Amendment auditors. It applies more to the people controlling your temper and controlling yourself whenever you have the people like the angry vet and these other ones out just screaming and hollering, you need a tit tac and just this random stupid stuff just used just for a grift.
I understand.
That's more of what that training in the academy is actually used for.
But you see what it does to the officer, though. It kind of programs them to not care about their rights at all, and just they're just they get this judgment about them, and they have a preconceived notion that they're just trying to trigger them. When I mean, if they get back to the First Amendment and that's what it is, I mean, I just see a lot of cops that are blatantly violating people's First Amendment rights and without any care in the world.
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
supposed to be protecting their rights,
So yeah, I mean, you actually make a really good point. You're differing between First Amendment auditor training and First Amendment training, right? So the First Amendment auditors, that's a thing. Everybody wants to say, it's a community or it's not a community, whatever.
Right.
And so knowing who the people are, why they're coming in, that sort of thing, it's probably because they're trying to exercise particularly their First Amendment right to press. But the First Amendment, actually, you've got 5 elements. The right to assemble is one of them, right? And knowing that one, that's almost half the battle right there. Knowing that you have the right, and those people, they have the right to go anywhere in public. That is your right to assemble. You have to have at least one to assemble, right? Then you got
They
two.
tried to
It becomes
infringe
assemble.
on that with the last 2020 there. They tried to infringe on that there.
Yeah, right. So you have the right to go anywhere in public, and holding a camera is just another one of the rights that's afforded in the First Amendment. You also have the right to ask for anything. That's the right to petition, right? Then you also have the right to believe anything and say anything, right? But if you have that type of training, as opposed to just, hey, by the way, there's going to be some guys coming in here from time to time with a camera, and this is kind of how you need to understand that they're going to try to get you and bait you and get you to react and that sort of thing. No, that's not accurate. They're most likely just exercising their First Amendment rights in full.
All right, I got another thing that I want us to engage here. This is a really good discussion. I'm glad we're having it. Hopefully there's some benefit. I don't want to just sit around and talk about problems the whole night. And I think there's been a good, healthy back and forth of problem solution. And I'd like to maintain that as much as possible. But I actually had this conversation with JJ not too long ago. We were actually heading up to the court hearing. So we had about a good, hour, 15-minute drive, or maybe it was an hour and a half. It goes by fast when I'm hanging out with my best friend, JJ. Because we have great things to talk about.
Because he's my
your employer?
best friend.
He's my Fed friend.
And your employer, right?
He's the right wing man, always commenting on my post. He's my Fed friend.
You ain't got a raise yet.
Yeah, JJ, I didn't get my check this week.
Yeah, what's going on? All the mods are wondering where the hell their CO paycheck is. So we had this. I don't know if you remember, JJ. He probably tuned me out like my wife does. But most of what they are trained, I have the Night says most of what they're trained is looking at everyone who is not a cop is a criminal. Now, do you remember I mentioned to you, JJ? Can you imagine dealing with most people on their worst day ever, and dealing with the dregs of society over and over and over and over again? Like how do you like? And I think I equated it to like the first Star Wars, right? Where they're trying to get the scoring off off of R2D2. He's like, oh, this droid's seen a lot of action. He's got a lot of scarring on his readout or whatever. And so they'd have to dip him and clean him and stuff. And I know it's a weird Star Wars my second one tonight. Maybe I got to watch it. But, I mean, that stuff sticks to you. I mean, when you just see Muppet people acting like Muppets all day, every day, with very few exceptions. I mean, you think cops wouldn't love to frickin' rescue cats out of trees? But no, they got to deal with some idiot who's shoplifting for the 15th fucking time. The system's all jacked up. The judge won't keep him the fuck in prison. And it's just this. I mean, just imagine that being your job. Imagine that being your job day in and day out. I mean, at some point in time, you'd become fucking jaded. I think I would. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you just presented the solution too. Any off time they have, if they can try to engage in positive community interaction as much as they possibly can, it might, have a really big difference on their, their outlook on the world.
Yeah, outside of the uniform, I don't really see the benefit of just going straight to the bar or to some ridiculous gathering where it's nothing but police officers. I mean, family engagement, that sort of thing, events, but not necessarily events where it's always public events, like private events, things that are going to bring you joy, as opposed to like always talking about the awful things. I agree.
And I think that's something that's one of the things that can't be taught, how to separate the two. You have to have a home life and you have to have a work life, and you have to separate them, church and state. And does it get aggravating sometimes to, I'm going to call it a luxury because I've actually learned a lot. It's been real educational to go out on calls, to do traffic stops, to work with the drug task force, to work with the Marshal Service and the Fugitive Task Force, to, just take normal calls, do search warrants. So I've been involved in a lot of stuff, and I just, for the first 2 years, it probably took that long to actually like transition into it, but to where you're constantly around nothing but just negativity, death, seeing kids be abused, just seeing suicide, going out on a search warrant and seeing, the kids 4 or 5 years old, running around in their own feces and in dog feces, and seeing kids be beating, or, seeing beat kids, seeing kids that's had actually their mom's boyfriend chew off half their foot because the kid wouldn't stop crying, and, being around all the negativity in a jail where people's always yelling, fighting, hating you, spitting at you, throwing shit at you, pissing, spitting. I mean, yeah, it gets to you. It took about 2 years to actually find that happy medium where you can actually separate the two of them. And actually, I got somebody who I still talk to this day who is completely non-related and just a friend that I run across that, we talk from time to time, and we share stories and just talk, and it seems to help. So yeah, there's sometimes I could see some people saying that they get jaded, especially the younger generation just out of the academy, being put out there and being called to their first suicide, to where, there's a minor who's committed suicide, or going out to a child abuse call, where a kid's beaten, there's broken bones and bones protruding out of their skin.
JJ, I'll just ask you to be a little cautious with, like, say, unalive, or
sorry.
There's certain like real direct keywords, self-delete, that kind of thing, that if you could just try to avoid. And I hate in America that I have to say this, but I really don't want to jeopardize having this platform taken away.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I could see the younger generation being a little bit and getting jaded, to where every time they get called out to a call, they're like, what now? I've been out to this house 7 times in the last month. It seems like every time I'm on shift, I get a call out to this domestic, and they're going at it again. And this guy's been in jail twice for smacking his wife, and he's not even supposed to be out there. And what the hell is he doing out there now? And, I do get that aspect of it. I mean,
it'll make you or break you, right?
JJ, you took the words out of my mouth, brother.
But JJ, at the same time, me and GS probably been in some of the worst parts of the entire world in the heights of the middle of a war. But if we did half the stuff these cops did, we would be charged with war crimes. We were not allowed to treat our prisoners the way that some of our inmates get treated in our own country. And that's because we had accountability. We knew if we took a shot and it was not a good one, we were getting in some crap, and it was not going to be fun. The cops, they openly unload 3-4 clips in the center of a neighborhood in the middle of rushing hour traffic without a care in the world, because at the end of the day, They go, I go home and I don't have to care about it because there's zero accountability for their own actions.
I respectfully disagree. I think they do care, but I think it's like to the way JJ's describing it. I think they're so jaded and so far gone. I mean, you have to understand too, when you go into this career, you don't fit in with normal people. I'm good at I'm around 40 and I'm good at switching it off, but it takes a toll on you. You know, like when a guy comes up to you and he confides in you that, the very person that's going to come visit him also has been raping him, and then he confides in you.
Hey,
Easy on the
hey.
Sorry.
Nice,
Graping.
Okay. So, hey, in fairness, when he emptied it's a magazine, it's not a clip. I will correct you, brother. Sorry, you just triggered me. But listen, he was reacting to a very specific threat when that happened. And so, ready?
Oh, the acorn.
Thank you, GS.
Shots fired! Shots fired! I'm a fire! Okay. It's all right, you're not on.
Oh my goodness. Did you put this together?
Shots fired! Oh my God, help me! I don't want to die! Oh. You're not on fire, Ricky Bobby! I'm on fire! You're not on fire! Oh, I'm hit! But I'm not even sure he even knows where he's at right now.
Jesse, are you okay?
It's Cal Norton. Oh, God!
Get in the house! Get in the house! Jesse!
Please don't let the invisible fire burn my friend!
Get back! Where is he? Where is he?
In the car! I was shot through the car! He's jumping on Ricky, trying to put the non-existent fire out. Now that's a teammate right there.
43, give me traffic. Shots fired.
She is definitely Magic Man.
This is going downhill fast. I think it'd be a great time to go to commercial break.
Bro, that is crazy. You didn't put that together, did you?
Me? No, it's James Freeman.
Oh,
okay. I was actually talking about the UPS driver who who was held hostage, and the police helped take him out of this world faster with 200 and some rounds fired in the UPS truck, and it also struck another innocent guy in rush hour traffic.
Well, this kind of brings up the point of the quote unquote PTSD, because that's what it really boils down to, right? So there are people who really shouldn't be on the force, right? We don't need, and this, I've said it many times, we don't need law enforcement. Law will enforce itself. Okay, we need peace officers.
No, how do you enforce peace though?
Well, you don't enforce peace. Peace officers.
Well, I don't feel like being peaceful today, Rick. What are you gonna do about it?
Well, that's why we need peace officers.
Are you gonna call a peace officer to come paint my nails, and maybe they'll put my hair in pigtails, and we can skip and put ribbons in our hair?
Well,
I don't feel like doing that, Rick. Now what?
I'm not hiring you.
I'm not doing that. Now I don't want to have peace.
Brett, do you think a guy like FPS would do peace?
Oh my goodness, no! I'm not hiring him either.
That's a good point. But
I would say there's sometimes the peace just as much as you try, it's not going to work out.
Well, you do know that the certificate is called a peace officer certificate, not law enforcement. Now, some states will call it, or jurisdiction will call it law enforcement, but really, they are supposed to be called peace officer certificates.
Right. So they're established as peace officers, right? Police.
So may I ask then, how would you suggest dealing with individuals that are combative, like FPS?
Well, so the firearm is there for protection. That is what it's there for, but that's all it should be for. It shouldn't be for combat, right? We're not hiring them on to go out there and go on an offensive. They're not a military force. They're a defensive measure to keep the peace within the communities.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
But anymore, they act like a standing army in our country.
Okay, go ahead, JJ.
I just say it goes back to your comments there, Brett. Yes, the title is peace officer, but sometimes you have to resort to non-peaceful confrontation. Sometimes things just aren't going to work out peaceful. I mean, there is no reasoning. there's drugs and alcohol and all sorts of chemical.
That's when you have
things in
corrections.
people's bloods and
Yeah,
Sorry.
and mistakes happen and bad choices happen and all of that. But in order to limit it as much as possible, right?
oh, absolutely. Definitely de-escalation. I mean, when you're able to do it. I mean, obviously, if you jump out of a car or open a door and
Okay.
you know,
And just to that point, JJ, wouldn't you agree that, like, I'll just say it, I love verbal de-escalation in my role because, quite frankly, it's honestly less paperwork too, and it's less incidents. It's easy. Whenever it goes right, I feel anybody would tell you that if they could verbally de-escalate the situation, that they take that all day long. That's the Super Bowl right there. That's the greatest win. But it's when you get into the other stuff that everything just goes to hell.
oh, absolutely. It's always easier to talk somebody off the ledge, and yes, absolutely.
So I think I might have misunderstood you, Brick. You're saying that the people that are in charge of trying to make sure that our laws are being respected should be bringing peace, not violence.
Correct.
But what you're saying is that natural law will take effect if I want to aggress on you as a civilian, not a peace officer, but as a civilian versus another civilian. Eventually, that'll work itself out between civilians.
Hopefully.
Meaning that might get violent, but then the peace officer shouldn't be coming to add to the violence. He should be trying to desk. Okay,
Right.
now I understand. Now I'm understanding what you're saying. You're
Right,
saying
because
I agree with that, Brick.
Yeah, because you can't.
I gotta go finish working on my daughter's car before it gets too
All
late
right,
here.
Pat.
Thanks for having me up. Great conversation.
Go ahead. Hey, don't forget to end your stream on your side. You can leave it up. I would prefer you end it because I don't know what people are going to go and say when it's still running.
Yeah, I'm gonna end it right now. So thanks.
Nice talking to you, Patton.
Yeah, keep the conversation
Yeah,
going.
very nice meeting you.
Yep, you too.
Good. Do you have anything you want to pump? You want to promote your channel or anything like that, or?
No, I'm not huge on like trying to build a huge channel or anything. My purpose is to spread awareness about this very subject. So we just talked about it. So thank you.
All right, sweet. You're welcome. All righty. Good luck to you, man. Enjoy the mechanic stuff. That's
And,
something I wish I had more knowledge. What's up?
It's kind of funny in the last year how much of stuff that I've learned from just different channels. Can you not hear me?